What's the defense when there's really no defense? Here's what we're talking about today. Yesterday, the first phase of the Brandon Isabel trial ended, and I doubt I'm going to be able to do much on the second phase because I suspect there are a lot of bad facts that would make the video, unsettling to people, and I don't really want to do that. Instead, this is going to probably be my last video on that, and I'm going to talk about what a defense attorney does when there really is no defense. In this case, there's no defense against the shell casings matching. There's no defense against the hat that was found at the river's edge. There's no defense about the fact that he asked her to meet him and then they drove to Edgewood, whatever that area is in Memphis. There's really not a lot of defense. The fact that all of his GPS stuff on his phone matches up, the fact that his text messages make him look like an irredeemable cad, all of these things make it very, very difficult for a defense attorney to ethically come in and can't defend the conduct, so the only thing he is left with is attacking the way the case was put together. So the first attack on how the case was put together is an attack on the element of premeditation. I've listened to a lot of first-degree murder jury charges, and the premeditation instruction is pretty much the same in most of the states, and it basically says we're not talking about a fixed amount of time here. It can be formed, in an instant, really, right before it happens. But the bottom line is that there has to be premeditation, and it lets the jury decide whether or not there's premeditation. So he goes through a long dissertation here about the instruction, and then listen to the question he asks at the end.
To be premeditated, and that's one of the elements that the state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. To be premeditated, the court told you in short instructions, I'm going to repeat it here. A premeditated act is one done after the exercise of reflection and judgment. Premeditation means that the intent to kill must have been formed prior to the act, before the shooting, before the baby, before throwing the baby. It's not necessary that the purpose to kill pre-exist in the mind of the accused for any different definite period of time. This is where I want you to look. The mental state is on page 4 of the jury instruction. The mental state of the accused at the time he decided to kill. Midway of the page. The mental state of the accused at the time he allegedly decided to kill must be carefully considered in order to determine whether the accused, whether Brandon, was sufficiently free of excitement and passion. So as to be capable of premeditation, because that requires reflection, cool thinking, reflection and judgment. So the state has to show that he's sufficiently free of excitement and passion. Now, I was reading this whole I also looked at the next sentence, and it says, if the design to kill was formed with premeditation, it doesn't matter if they were acting in a state of passion when they acted. Well, I ask you this. Is there any evidence anywhere that you've heard throughout this entire proceeding that Brandon was thinking about taking the lives of Danielle or that baby?
Well, let's think about that. Let's see. There's that text message to Danielle that says he doesn't want to be a father, and let's end this. I don't know, that certainly sounds final to me. Then he arms himself. He tells her to meet him. Then he gets out of the car with the firearm, walks to her car, all this time knowing that he's going to take her life. And then he opens the door and shoots her. And then after that, he's driving around with the child in the car before he does the heinous act that he does. And so, yeah, I think there's probably a whole lot of evidence that he was premeditating this. He then runs around and sends text messages to Danielle knowing she's not with us any longer. Those are the actions of somebody who planned to get away with it. So he started planning it well before he did the act. And that line of argument is the kind of argument that strains your credibility with the jury. The jury raises an eyebrow and goes, "Really? This is what you're going to tell me? This is the defense?" So I have to say, I just don't think he did a particularly good job with that particular element. As long as we're going to strain credibility, however, let's think about another way we can strain credibility. I know, let's blame the other woman. Yeah, blame the woman that he was in love with for all these things that happened. Keeping in mind, of course, that she never pulled the trigger. She never told him to do this, and she didn't want him to do this. In fact, there is a statement that she made to him that says, tell her to have a safe delivery. She wasn't angry at the woman, but Brandon was. Listen to this argument and tell me if it hits you the same way it hits me, which is shut up and get out of here.
And I respectfully say, to me, and I hope to you, that she manipulated him. She tortured him, not just love. And I'll show you why I say that. And she pushed him. She drove him. So he wanted more than anything in the world, right or wrong. He loved her. You can't reason with love. You just can't.
I'm beginning to think that he watched the death penalty closing in the Soto-Escalera case and is looking for additional ways to really tick off this jury. That's a really dumb line of argument. Now, I have to give him credit. I think he's trying to do his best to make a defense for this person, but it's falling pretty much flat, at least as far as I'm concerned. You have to tell me what you think. One of the things you have to do when you're making a closing argument is you have to make eye contact with jurors. It's really, really important. And you have to gauge the way they're looking at you so that you know how they're feeling about your closing argument. To a certain extent, you don't want to tailor your argument to the way they're feeling. Sometimes you have to hit them with hard facts that are uncomfortable. But at the same time, you need to be self-aware enough to recognize when a line of argument is not working. In this particular case, after going through that bit about it was her driving him, he proceeded to double down on what I think is a loser argument, and he said this.
He wants her to learn to be a good stepmom and a good mother. How are we going to make it work? I'm trying my best. It's her wife. I'm trying my best in this situation, talking to her like I'm supposed to feel about my so-called man in the hospital hours. I hate this for me. But this ain't doing nothing but building a wall. You expect me to be loving in a situation like this? I'm all over the place. And Patricia. This is where you have hospital. And she's not going on the 31st. And she tells him, I've been trying to prepare, but I wasn't fully prepared for this situation. I'm sorry. I'm selfish. And she tells him about the paternity test. I want those paternity tests. We'll talk after the paternity test. DNA, I'll go by and bring it to you. The Walgreens where she went down about the DNA test. You swab her, you swab the baby, and get it back to me.
So, as you all probably know, the jury convicted him on all 4 counts, and he tried his best to defend this guy by pointing the bony finger of indignation at this Alicia person, the girlfriend who didn't want to be bothered with another baby mama and have essentially a continuing relationship with other women. I can't say as I blame her. I would not want to have that in a relationship either. So it's difficult to put a lot of blame on her because she never pulled the trigger. She never suggested this. She never probably even thought this was a rational approach to the problem that he had. Sure, he loved her, but again, he wanted her to be a stepmom. She said, that ain't happening. And as a result, he did something absolutely heinous. It's the only way to say it. So the jury convicted him. They're going to go to the penalty phase. I suspect he will probably be recommended for the death penalty. We'll have to see. I'll probably do a short to let you know how the jury comes out on that. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you being here today. If you have the opportunity today, try to do one kind thing to help somebody else. Any kind thing will do. Buy somebody a Coke, get them a cup of coffee, anything that makes their day better. That would be a way to help make the world a better place. Because after all, isn't that what we're all after? Now, YouTube has a few things that they think you might be interested in, and they're going to be showing you that right up there.